The Environmental Protection Agency under Scott Pruitt is conducting the same kind of bizarre medical experiments on helpless pups. In this case, what we are doing is uh, feeding them lard until they become obese and then subjecting them to all kinds of toxic fumes to see if they die. It's hard to believe that any of this has any legitimate medical purpose.
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance.
I'm Roger Stone, and you're in the right place. That's right, it's the Alex Jones Show. It was through the leadership of InfoWars and White Coat Labs, a conservative pro-consumer group, that we ended the testing on helpless dogs by the Veterans Administration. We were shocked to learn that bizarre medical experiments were still being conducted on man's best friend. In some cases, being conducted on puppies as well as young as 6 weeks. These bizarre experiments included collapsing their lungs, drilling holes in their heads, inducing heart attacks, and so on. There's no scientific reason for these bizarre, cruel, inhumane medical experiments. We appealed through a campaign here at InfoWars, spearheaded by Owen Schroyer and myself on the War Room, to urge people to contact the president and direct him to tell the Veterans Administration to stop the inhumane treatment of man's best friend. And we were successful. In fact, when the Veterans Administration put forward a new rule that said these experiments could continue, but only with the approval of the Secretary of the VA, it was overridden by a budget signed by the president that wiped out all of the funding for these bizarre experiments. Chalk one up for the dogs. Now, however, we have learned that the Environmental Protection Agency under Scott Pruitt is conducting the same kind of bizarre medical experiments on helpless pups. In this case, what we are doing is feeding them lard until they become obese and then subjecting them to all kinds of toxic fumes to see if they die. It's hard to believe that any of this has any legitimate medical purpose. So now we have to move from the VA to the EPA. That's why I'm asking you to contact the EPA administrator, Scott Pruitt. There's his email address, pruitt.scott@epa.gov. Again, pruitt.scott@epa.gov. And tell him to end the bizarre, strange, extreme medical experiments on dogs. Hashtag Dog Lives Matter. So tweet it, put it on your Facebook post, put it up at your Instagram, but spread the word. We want to do exactly what we did previously, which is to empower public opinion, to empower you, the individual info warriors, and dog lovers across the political spectrum, to tell the federal government to end these archaic medical experiments that have no medical or scientific value. It is time to stop experimenting on defenseless puppies. And that means you, Scott Pruitt. So one more time, let's show that email address because I want to maximize our impact. Please, folks, send an email right now to pruitt.scott@epa.gov and urge him to lay off of the puppies. This is a vitally important issue, and it's the kind of thing that we are going to be talking about more and more on the War Room. I also want to mention, as Alex Jones did, that my next book, Stone's Rules, will be in bookstores May 15th. It'll also be available at the InfoWars site, the InfoWars store. This is an operating manual, if you will. In other words, it is a book of rules and things that I have learned in a 40-year career in American politics. But it's also beyond the political. You will learn how much linen to show in the cuff of a well-tailored suit, or you'll get the recipe for my mother's basic marinara sauce, which is the secret to which is San Marzano tomatoes, by the way. And I think you will find this extraordinarily useful. I'm very pleased to say that I have an introduction by Tucker Carlson for Stone's Rules. And in that introduction, Tucker tells a story of going to his producers and asking to have me on his show and being told no, that Roger Stone is too controversial. Now, it's important to note that this was not at Fox. This was at CNN when Tucker was at CNN. And as I think all of you know, I was banned by CNN and MSNBC back during the 2016 election